Good morning. Barbara and I have been a part of Grace Church for 22 years. Through the years, our family has experienced 6 rectors, 5 youth ministers. We've had 4 confirmations in our family, 3 weddings, 2 organists, and a partridge in a pear tree. The one thing that has remained constant is the love and support that this congregation has given us. We could talk about all of the different ministries that Grace has for the youngest and oldest members of the church. We could talk about the outreach in the community, and obviously we could talk about the wonderful music program that my family has been involved in. But the driving force behind all of these ministries and all of these wonderful programs is the people of Grace Church. The support we give each other as a church family is the catalyst for all the things that we do. So as you consider your pledge, think about the different ways that the church has supported your family. My family supports Grace because of all the 22 years and all the love that you all have given us. Thank you.
May the Lord be with you.
And also with you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is William Dorsey, a proud member of Grace Episcopal Church here in Paducah. Over the years, I've been involved in many of the wonderful programs this church has to offer. For most of my life, since I was 3, by the way, I've been worshiping God. Maturing and understanding my faith has had a huge impact on my life as well as others. I've been practicing this faith since the start of Godly Play. After the good amount of time spent with my age group in there, we evolved to become part of the youth ministry. The youth ministry has kept me involved, spent some great times with my friends by going on fun field trips supplied by the church. Also, I would like to thank Hannah Shelley for being the best fitting youth leader for Grace. The youth group has taught me to be more giving to others, so I'm always proud to help people in need at the community kitchen. They do the best job in Paducah by helping many lives in Paducah. But one of the best parts of Grace is the ability to get closer to God and my faith through confirmation class. I'm now learning the Bible as I should and more in depth of what I'm doing at this great place provided by the people of Paducah. I am devoted to help the church by acolyting a very sacred part of the Sunday services. Another very sacred service time include the festive and holiday programs throughout the year. Times like Advent, Christmas, Epiphany, Lent, Easter, and the Pentecost are all joyous times with the congregation of the church. And lastly, when we ended up moving away from our family down south, we found a loving family surprisingly quickly at this church, our home. These are the reasons why all of us should keep the church going, and most importantly, the reasons we should keep worshiping our God by leading a positive and giving life. Thank you.
Good morning. And veterans, thank you for your service. Hua. It's okay to say hua, veterans. Hua. Hua. All right. Webster's Dictionary defines a steward in one of its many forms as a person morally responsible for the careful use of money, time, talents, or other resources, especially with respect to the principles or the needs of a community or group. Now, pondering that, I realize that I am a beneficiary of stewardship in the form of great personal blessings spanning my 76 years. Now, these include, but they're not limited to, my family, my foundation in faith set in my youth here at Grace Church, Molly Sue Martin, who for 53 years has been patiently explaining things to me. I love you, Molly. And the United States Army. So much more the reason for my obligation of stewardship. I recall in my early childhood, immediately following World War II, our father served and returned home safely. His name and those of many other members of Grace Church family appear on this World War II Veterans plaque to the right, to your right. And I recommend taking a look at it when you have a time. That is our Grace Church family. Consider also, in particular, the dedication of Gunner's mate Harry Lowe Jr., who gave all he had when he died in action in the Pacific. Our mother had not learned to drive at the time, at that time I was describing, and she was frustrated by that post-war Studebaker with its column shift and its clutch. And we were visited at home and ministered by Father Custis Fletcher. And I recall his gentle, caring demeanor. We were treated as Grace Church family. Now, Mom would catch a ride to church activities with friends, also church family. And then along came the 1955 Chevrolet Bel Air with automatic transmission, and Mom achieved her license, independent freedom of movement, and she assumed just that special role of the family chauffeur. And I was inspired myself by a certain church member who is memorialized on the World War I plaque in the rear of the church. World War I veteran himself, Judge James Wheeler. And I remember how articulately he read as a lay reader. And I whispered to my mother, maybe I'll be a lay reader one day. And she assured me that I would. Again, inspired by church family, Grace Church family. Then came my driver's license at age 16 and permission to go out a second night on the week. We had curfews and we had certain rules. And I was allowed to attend Sunday night youth group here at Grace. And I have pleasant memories and a few stories of a number of your siblings, or your parents, or your grandparents. Again, these are pleasant memories of Grace Church family. Now, a hiatus of 8 years of college and advanced education, followed by 30 years of uniform service, and 15 years of civilian service in the United States Army, and we returned to Paducah and were welcomed warmly by whom? By our Grace Church family. Then, in 2004, a little angel named Astrid alighted in our arms. And here we were, entering our 60s, and we were simultaneously grandparents, and we were parents again. And you, our Grace Church family, welcomed her, witnessed her baptism, continued to nurture her in growth and maturity into the beautiful and usually angelic, soon to be confirmed 17-year-old who today serves as our crucifer. Thank you, Astrid. We love you. We are blessed here at Grace to have a dedicated, proficient, responsive, and accessible professional clergy, beautiful, inspiring church music, thank you very much, and a dedicated and motivated support staff. And they have adroitly adapted to these COVID protocols. They've applied innovation, and they have assured continuity of ministries. Thank you. We all struggle with these myriad challenges offered by the COVID pandemic. But with God's help, we here at Grace Church and our church family, we shall prevail and even resume a Verger's breakfast here. My experiences with Grace, I'm sure, mirror those of many of others. So, the ministries of our church, both within our congregation and outreach to the community, which is occurring today as an example, are worthy and of our perpetuation and our stewardship, both in time and treasure. Now, our vestry is tasked with planning and formulating an annual budget. This includes, but it's not limited to, financial realities of salaries, utilities, insurance, security, maintenance, and outreach to others in need. Outreach to others in need. Let us remember that. All worthy indeed. So, finally, for our Grace family, I encourage all to return their annual pledge letters without delay. Thank you.
Good morning. From Paul's letter to the Romans, a verse that is important to me, paraphrased somewhat. Suffering produces endurance. Endurance leads to character. Character gives us hope. And hope does not disappoint because the love of God has been poured into our hearts through the Holy Spirit that has been given to us. Now that has meaning to me. I choose to live with hope. Plus, as an Episcopalian, I'm guaranteed that at least once every 3 years, I'll hear those verses from the 5th chapter of Romans in our lectionary as it spins around. I've had the privilege of speaking during stewardship before about what in Grace Church is important to me, what's meaningful. So I've spoken about pieces of our parish history, people, architecture, stories. In recent years, we've heard from Dick Holland and from Wheezy Catterjohn. Earlier this year from Dawn Evans, and last week from Julian Dismukes. He gave us a beautifully rendered description of iconic moments in his life, forged connections with our church, its people, Major Wheeler and Custis Fletcher, our memorials to our veterans, specifically Harry Lowe. Julian received a well-deserved ovation. And I'm disappointed I wasn't here to listen to William Dorsey. I'm told his message too was special, and it received an ovation, prompting one parishioner to say about that youth-led service on Halloween that it reminded them of the old days. Reminded them. Recounting memories, telling stories, our history. And I've been asked to tell what's important to me. After many years attempting to move the needle of financial stewardship, well, it's tough to do in the Episcopal Church. We don't like to talk about money, and we are very reticent to ask. We maintain confidentiality in pledging. There's no review committee wondering why some amount is different than what might be expected or possible. And we don't infuse our asking with emotion or testimony. But some of what we do well. We take comfort welcoming all. There's a diversity here in our denominational origins, and therefore, by degree, our expression of faith. We encourage reason and questioning. We've never dictated a social conformity, cultural belief, and there is no price for admission. My challenge What can I tell you about my experience here? What has meaning to me that inspires or convinces you to give and pledge? Yes, the pledge card is the Episcopal Church's object that represents intentional Christian financial commitment. Fill one out, turn it in. We all have our own web, unique and born of our experience, our associations, our understanding, our knowledge, our beliefs, our framework. So my stories may not resonate for you with meaning. And meaning is what stewardship is about. How does this church inspire you? What things resonate with you? What iconic moments in your own life in church are forever in your mind? That's what has meaning. There are 1,000 things here to inspire. Embrace them. And there are 1,000 things to distract. Ignore them. And they are unique to every one of us. What is important to you? Tell your stories about what is meaningful. And then make a meaningful gift. Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
I love Grace Episcopal Church, and I have loved Grace Episcopal Church for 62 years now. My family came and joined this church when I was 2 years old, and I have so many happy memories of my childhood right here at Grace Episcopal Church. My mother passed away when I was 15 years old. And as a teenager, sometimes we take things for granted and we don't think about things. But as I remember my childhood, so many of my memories are right here at Grace Episcopal Church with my mother and father and helping my mother with the altar guild. And I've been so blessed to be a part of this wonderful church family. There is a bond here that has just lifted me up. It's made me safe. I'm so thankful that I could have spent most of my life here and that I could have raised my children here. It is so important that we support our church in so many ways. And of course, monetarily is very important because you don't realize what it takes to run our church on a day-to-day basis. But that is so important, but it's also so important to be giving of your time, because there's so many ways that you can make contributions in our church by just giving your time. And it's such a wonderful way to get to know people, to build relationships and friendships. I'm so thankful for the friendships that I have with so many of you all, and I've known you for so long, and I'm very thankful for that. And thank you for letting me share with you this morning.